I would like to say that it is a privilege for me to do this again this year. This year is not quite as good as some years past, and I searched for something to say at the beginning that would set the tone for what I was talking about. And I guess what I would say is that the conditions at the city are not as good as we'd like for them to be, but they're not as bad as they could be. And I thought I would kind of set the tone for what we might talk about tonight. I don't know how many of you saw the article in yesterday's paper in the 100 Years Ago, but I thought I might read that to set the tone for how bad things were a year ago today in the city of Rome. One of the wildest nights Rome ever had known occurred the last week of 1909. When a devastating fire, the second in a period of 2 weeks, destroyed the old Douglas livery stable, cremating 23 horses, destroying S.A. White's blacksmith shop and the Wilkinson buildings, and did damage to numerous other buildings, including the new 3rd Avenue Hotel scaffolding. The total loss was $35,500. The flames discovered in the rear of the stable, ran by Lindsay and Hicks and owned by J. Bass, spread rapidly, a chill wind blowing sparks all over the central part of town. Half-clad people rushed frantically about, dodging among the vehicles which had hurriedly been removed from the stable, and the whining of the horses and mules penetrated the scene. The horses of the number 1 fire wagon took fright and tore up Broad Street. They were stopped when they turned into 9th Avenue. That's Turner McCall now. When they turned into 9th Avenue and struck a telegraph pole, the wagon was damaged. Fireman A. Bennett fell from the 3rd floor scaffolding of the hotel structure and received bruises. The city lost 10 mules, 2 horses, 2 double wagons, 6 one-horse garbage wagons, Jamie, and 12 sets of harnesses. The horses and mules which were let loose from the building scattered all over the town and nearby country. Anyone finding a horse was asked to bring him back to the scene of the fire. The dead ones were hauled away to the vacant lot adjoining the gammon plantation. And Captain W.M. Towers and the old volunteer fire department said that the Douglas livery stable had been expected to burn for the past 30 years. I figured they must not have had much of a fire prevention program if they had known it was going to burn for 30 years and hadn't done anything about it. So I guess it's bad. It made me think, as bad as the conditions are, they were in a real mess 100 years ago today. Now, in honor of our Commissioner Wattstetter, he did request this year that we not use any tables and chart tables. So I only have 1 table, and that's the very first thing I did, Buzz, just for you. But I put that in tonight because it is a 10-year history of sales tax by month. And I think it gives us a pretty good picture of the economic conditions in our community and what's affecting other revenues that we deal with, such as business licenses and franchise fees and real estate transfer tax and other things that we get money from. This pretty much typifies what's going on. As you can see, we've had a decrease in sales tax for the last 2 years. And in fact, if you look at the last 2 months of 2008, which was the November and December payment, and realizing that lags by 2 months, that was for September and October, you can tell you got to go all the way back to 2005 to find a month that low. So I think that somewhere along about September of 2008, things began to really slip, and I would anticipate that we will see that going forward into 2009. Now, this is a bar graph of the same numbers, and I think you can see we have had other years where we didn't have much growth in sales tax. We did experience good growth in 04 and 05 and 06, but 07 and 08, we've seen it go backwards. Now, 2 things are affecting that. One, of course, no question about it, the economy is affecting that. But I think as we have observed and discussed in our planning sessions, I think, and I think y'all would agree, that the internet sales is playing a part of it in this decrease and the lack of growth. And we are trying to address that through GMA and our other affiliations with other groups. And hopefully one of these days we'll figure out how to be fair and equitable to our retail businesses in town so that everyone pays sales tax on whatever they might buy. But the next bar graph that I've got there to demonstrate kind of the status of where another, I guess, guide mark or benchmark that we look at every year is our fund balance. And as you can tell, for the last 10 years, we've had other years where we had a decrease and some years where we've had significant increases. I would say that the big increase in 2001 and then again in 2004 was not mainly due to our good management, but was more due to changes in accounting methods where we were told that we needed to book revenues that were collected prior to the end of February if they were for the prior year. We had not done that in the past. So that leads to some of the increases. But as you can tell, we did have a slight decrease from 2006 to 2007, and it appears that based on our revenue in 2008 and our expenditures for 2008, that we will have probably $600,000 to $650,000 decrease, and I'll talk about that in just a second. We did experience a decrease in revenue in 2008 by about 1%. Primarily that was came from the local option sales tax, as we've already talked about, but also several of our other revenues. Even after we revised the budget in August, we still didn't get as much as we had anticipated. Most departments were at or below budget in expenses, but we did have an extra payroll period. It was a leap year, and it created an extra payroll period in 2008, and we also had to make additional transfers from the general fund to the transit fund and the golf fund. And the combination of that was approximately $350,000. So the combination of the shortage in revenue and the overage in expenditures is where the $650,000 came from. The another, I guess, negative sign that we saw in 2008 was building permits. We went from 89 permits in 07 to 57 in 08, which is a 37% reduction. And that's down from a peak in 2005 of 216. So as you can see, that's about 25% of where we were 4 years ago. On the single family, similar numbers. We went from 51 to 35 in 2008. And we had a peak of 129 in 2004, I think it was. I'll go back to that. That we had in 2005 was when we had our peak. Now let's switch horses for just a minute and talk about the other major fund that we manage and operate, and that is our water and sewer fund. That's about an $18 million budget, whereas our general fund's about $27 million. But the big story on water and sewer is this graph really shows, it really jumps out at you. This is a 20-year graph of our water consumption. And what it shows you is that our water consumption is down 14.8% in 2008 from 2007. And it's down 26.3% from our peak year in 2000. If we go back to the graph, you can see we were right at 11 million, average of 11 million gallons a day in 2000. So you really got to go back into the 70s to probably the year right after Trend Mills, probably 81 or 82, to get anywhere near that 8 million gallons per day. And two main reasons for this. One is we had a closing in 2007 of a major plant, Mohawk, the dye plant on Redmond Road. And then the governors imposed water restrictions that were in effect for the first half of 2008. that was really a killer for in the spring and summer months. And then even after it was taken off, by the time we got everything set up, it was September. So I don't know that we'll see a huge increase this year, but I would think we would see some increase if watering is allowed for the entire year.